This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions.
Hi, welcome back to Invest Like a Pro. This is Joe Rabil. I'm going to talk about the stock market today. I want to go through the market conditions and also look at what's taking place. We've got some pretty critical levels that are being respected right now. We have to see what side appears to be winning. It's getting interesting. Let's go ahead and get into this. Just briefly, if you're interested in learning more about trend and momentum in multiple time frames, I'd suggest you start with the book. Most of the people that have gotten a really good idea of how to implement my approach started with the book, so I wanted to offer it at a discount. It's in a PDF format. If you go to rabilstockresearch.com/book, you can get more information. All right, as we move into this now, I'm actually got relatives in town, so I'm trying to get this done a few minutes early. The market's about to close here in another few minutes, and I'm market's not really having a very good day, but it is trying to make a little bit of a comeback. Now, let's go ahead and start with the other market conditions before we get into the trend. By that time, the market should have closed. All right, so let's just look at this. We've got the sentiment number right now up in the has jumped pretty significantly in 1 week. All right, last week this was at like 18%. The difference between the bulls and the bears was at 18%, and the number of bulls is around 42. So that's a big jump in a single week. All right, the fact that that happened it's not surprising that we saw a little bit of a drop here take place, some kind of a little peak, but remember, last week I had this here and this here. Okay, these were positive because we got oversold in the overbought, oversold oscillator. I gotten oversold here, and we were sitting on the 40-week, also sitting on all the support in the fib levels and all that. And so, we were looking for at least some sort of a rally. We did get that. I'm going to go into more detail in the support and resistance and who looks like they're winning right now. But I did want to cover the fact that we were positive. We're still operating off of that bullish signal. All right. This hasn't alleviated the oversold condition yet. It didn't get up to 50, which typically is the minimum I would say I'd be looking for. Now, we have this sentiment number up here, and that also hasn't gone negative, right? We didn't get so bullish that it's negative, but it has turned itself back to neutral. Now, in terms of the volatility, we still got some issues. This is rising above its moving average. So on a daily chart, we should be expecting some movement out of these out of these waves, right? I would expect continued volatility in this as this is rising like this. So the size of these bars are growing, but that also tells you that we're probably going to bounce around a little bit more. It's less trend worthy typically, just kind of like when this started to rise. You notice how we got a lot more volatility jumping in. And then once it kicks in again or it slows down a little bit, we get a reduction in the volatility. But right now it's up there and it doesn't look like it's slowing down right now. So we want to keep that in mind. Now, if we look at the weekly, we cannot get this thing to budge. And, I'm just going by history. Okay. I'm not saying that it's impossible for this to fall apart and get killed. I'm just saying, historically speaking, there should be some movement in the size of these bars should be growing. That would be a sign of distribution through here. And if that were to happen, then that would increase the odds that we have a lot more risk in place. But that's really not the case right now. So we're in a situation, I think, where the fact is that there's support underneath, and I've talked about all the reasons why in the last couple of weeks, the videos as to why this 4,200 level was so important. We're starting to show signs of respecting that, and I have to sort of assume, unless proven otherwise, you have to sort of assume based on what's going on with the volatility that it does want to hold. Now, on a daily chart, it's almost the opposite. We would almost not expect the up move to continue based on the volatility. We should be looking for volatility to cause swings in the pattern as opposed to just a straight up move. All right. All right. Now, the only thing I wanted to mention here is when we look at the momentum, I did move this over. We're close on the daily chart to working that back to neutral just based on what's taking place from being negative. Everything else has stayed the same right now. But let's go ahead. And I do want to cover one other thing. So I got some questions regarding how to do the multiple line chart because I did this video on Tuesday regarding this, and I think it's a very important thing to have. What I use, if you hit indicator, I have this moving average simple. I would use that. Now, if I click on that, it just added a simple line. And if you click on the settings, you can change this to 18. All right, keep everything else the same, and then you come down here and you pick whatever time frame you want. All right, if you want to make it a monthly, that's fine. But what you also want to do is uncheck this, and that will. Now it's on 9 right now. So if I switch this to 18, you'll see it'll look just like the gold one. See how it just ran right over the gold one. So you just don't want to wait for time frame closes. Just uncheck that. All right, that's all I wanted to point out. Let's go ahead. So you can see what's actually going on here just briefly. We're below the 18-week, and that's kind of rolling, and we're above the 18-month, and that's kind of rolling. You see how we got these two lines kind of coming together? I think that makes sense that we could channel here for a little bit as opposed to picking a direction right now. All right, let's just look at what's taking place. Now, I'm not going to go over the I'm not going to go over all the reasons why. If you want to know all the reasons why, watch the last couple Friday videos. Just go back through. We have the fib level from here. We got the fib level from here. We've got the breakout level of the 1, 2, 3 right here. We've got the 200-day right here. We've got the trend line right here. We've got everything happening right at this level. One thing I did want to point out on the monthly chart was the fact that we have finally spent a few months pulling back, and we've turned over into a new month. And that does increase the likelihood now that we've formed a pinch play. It's open season, right? I mean, we could turn up from here based on what's taken place. Now, it would actually be better if we didn't, or if we had like kind of like a little mini month, small month, or a sideways month or two, while the 18 and the 40 continue to cup around underneath. Right now, as long as we hold the MACD line, holds its signal line, and green DI holds above the red DI, the bias is improving. It's not positive. I'd still consider it neutral, but we can turn up from this position pretty easily. All right. So that's the monthly. The weekly, as I said, was coming into the support. Now, here's the problem with this. We've got a 18-week that's rolled over during this process. All right. So now I would expect that resistance up here on the S&P. It's around 44.25. All right. So that's the level that I would be watching if we can work our way up to that point. Now, we might not make that right now. And the reason is that we had a pretty nice up move. We had a good 3 to 4 day up move. And in the process of doing that, we worked our way pretty close to 4,400. I mean, if the 4,400 number is a stagnant level, right? I mean, I'm looking at the moving average, and it's actually gone up a little bit. Originally, I was using 4,400 as the number, and we got up to 43.85 or something like that. It's pretty close. So, you know, we got pretty close to 4,200 on the downside, didn't quite hit it. And now we got pretty close to 4,400 on the upside and didn't quite hit it, but it looks like we could be turning down. Now, in the process of doing this, look at what the MACD did. You see how this turned up through the signal line? So when that happens here, we know that we're still subject to the possibility of a zero line reversal. But this, I don't know if I can really look for that. And also don't really have a reverse divergence possibility, because you'd have to come climbing back above this prior peak up here, and that would be well above the zero line. So you don't really have the potential for a reverse divergence. And so where is our next support? Well, there's two things that can happen here. Either the market can drop back down here and maybe even undercut this low and test 4,400, right? Or 4,200. So maybe it wants to come down and actually click on that 4,200. If that happens, this will be diverging. the odds of this coming down and hitting a new low and this actually confirming it are pretty small based on what's taken place. Because of the way this is rotated up, I don't think that's a very high probability. Now, that's one way it could play out. The other way, what could happen here is we could just form a little pinch and this could cup around, this could hold, and we could work our way up to here and actually look for some kind of a reversal back to the upside. All right. Now, those are a couple things I'm on the watch for. If we go to the hourly, I think it's a really good idea to continue to keep your trend lines on. So this was the last trend line during the decline. We had the 1, and then we made the 2, and then we did the 3, and we turned back to the upside here. And then look at what happened. We have the 1, right? And I like keeping the zigzag up. It keeps you honest. You can't throw an opinion on this. This is the only trend line you could be drawing on the upside. It's it. You can say I made a higher low here. I've broken the trend line. That's the 1. I've rallied up and tested. That's the 2. And then I came back down through here. That's the 3. I got the 3, and look at how big a red bar that was. All right. Now, here's the issue. Once again, we did not make a lower low on the 1. See how this made a significantly higher low? So we need for this to make another lower high and another lower low to turn the trend to the downside convincingly. All right. That doesn't mean it isn't. It's weakened. They've weakened it, but they haven't truly turned it down. If we do that, if we rally up, come back down through here, then you should be thinking we're coming all the way back down to test these lows. But if we don't get that right now, we can't assume anything. We could just spend some time channeling a little bit while this comes back down to the 0 line and this gets low. You see how we don't have a lot of selling strength right now yet. So we've got to keep an eye on this hourly. I think this is a good way, and keep these old trend lines up so you know where you're coming from. This did not go up that much before it broke the trend line and started to reverse. You see what I mean? Now, if we make a move to the downside, you want to put that trend line in, but keep these old ones in place so you know what has really been taking place over the course of the last month. So that's how I would play this. I would be watching the hourly to guide me. I'm looking to see if we're going to come back down and test 4,200, which is starting to look like a potential, a possibility. And the reason why I think that's a possibility is I want to point this one thing out. Look at what they did to the IWM today. So the Russell 2000 was down 2.23% today. Okay. Now, if we draw the trend lines in on this and you do it honestly, you basically had to draw a trend line like that. You can't use any of these this low. You go to the last peak, right? So this is our trend line, and look at what happened. We never got a 1, 2, 3 to the upside. We had a failed 1, 2, 3, and look at the size of the red bar that was the failure bar, right? And now we've got this kick down move. We're already coming down to test support. So, I mean, this is not what we want to be seeing if we're looking for a market that's getting ready to turn to the upside. So I wanted to make sure I covered that. All right, let me know if you have any questions or comments, and we'll see you next time.